Mr. Yusuf, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. What's going on?
Give me 1 second. We're live. I'm gonna plug in my headset, ladies and gentlemen.
Let me go back to your channel.
Say that
Digital.
one. Say that one more time.
Let me go to your digital learning partners.
You don't have to go there, brother. You're there.
Yeah, I just gotta share this. One second. Excuse me. All right. You're gonna
Yeah,
share.
boss.
You're gonna share this. My page. Okay. Almost done. There we go.
All right. So before we start with the new topic, just a quick recap and a welcome to everyone watching. Welcome back, guys, to our series, WordPress the series, everything you need to know about WordPress to build a successful website. So, recapping very quickly, we discussed why WordPress.com versus WordPress.org, which is one is a service while one is a resource. We discussed what themes are in WordPress and free versions of themes versus premium versions of themes, and what happens when you get a premium version, what the benefits are. Uh, and now, today, we're going to be discussing also another very important component of the WordPress website, and that is WordPress plugins. So, Mr. Yusuf, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about yourself, my man?
My man, my main man. I'm doing well.
Good. So, talking about the subject of plugins, let's go ahead and define a little bit what plugin is, right? So, a plugin is a piece of code. Okay, it's a piece of code, it's a piece of software that gives you a certain functionality that your site did not have before you installed WordPress. So, for example, let's say you wanted to have a forum on your website, right? So when you install the WordPress, by default, it doesn't come with the forum, but now you're going to look for a forum plugin so you can create a community within your website.
Mm-hmm.
For example, let's say WordPress by default don't come with sharing buttons. You know, when you're at a blog content and you want the audience to basically share your blogging material, right? So it usually doesn't come out with the sharing buttons. So now you can add a plugin that will give you that option so you can share the buttons. Like when people can read the content and they can click share to Facebook, Pinterest, and whatnot. Let's say you want to optimize the website. So there's a plugin for that, the Yoast plugin. If you want to configure the Google Analytics, there's a plugin for that too. Makes sense? So this plugin, it helps you to do additional things that you wanted on the website. Like for example, I want to create some type of an application for a job on my website to get to hire new people, for example, right? There is a plugin for that too. Makes sense? When it comes to security, there's a plugin for that. If you want to do a backup, there's a plugin for that as well. Makes sense? If you want to set up some type of anti-spam comment, there's a plugin for that. So by default, when you install the WordPress, you're not going to get all these additional features. That is something you have to add it by using these plugins. Now, one thing you have to be careful based on your hosting provider, the hosting company. I recommend that you should not have more than like maybe 10 plugins on the website. The more plugins you add, sometimes that can slow the background. You know what I mean?
So 10 are okay. 10 are a reasonable amount, and then also you alluded to hosting. And say you were to get more powerful hosting with more dedicated resources, at that point, can you have more plugins?
Well, absolutely you can, but be very strategic on how you're using the plugins. Okay,
Oh,
because you don't want to just, for example, Oh, there is a plugin for how to make the font look like nice. That's ridiculous. You don't want a plugin for that. You might want to ask a developer to do something, something simple. How, you don't need a plugin for that. Plugin for something like, something more sophisticated, more functional. Something like I want to use this plugin for an additional task. Like, take the example of calendar,
Hmm.
event calendar, for example. You know,
So so with the event calendar, what would you recommend that we do?
you get a plugin for that. So if you have let's say you provide local workshop, and or how about this one? Let's say you do consultation, and you want somebody to book an appointment with you. Now you can have an appointment plugin. So you can have a page with an appointment with the date and the calendar, so people can set up an appointment with you. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, these plugins, amazingly, especially what makes WordPress unique is because it gives you that ability of finding additional features, additional functionalities that I want to add to the website, and I can do that by finding the plugin that I need. And of course, then you have the premium plugins and the free plugins as well.
So for example, let's say that resources are not an issue in terms of hosting, and I find say 5 plugins that I like. Do I add, and they're supported by WordPress? It's reviewed by WordPress on WordPress.org. Um, do I have to worry about synergy between the plugins? Are the plugins always compatible with one another? Does one plugin maybe overwrite what the other plugin does?
That is an excellent question. I would say most plugins are compatible. If not, then you will definitely see a conflict. So, for example, let's say you have a 10 plugins for extra additional features, and suddenly you added the 11th one, and you notice your website is acting up,
Hmm.
and maybe things are not very slow, or it's not working very well, or you might even get a white screen of death. When that happens, then you would know that, okay, the plugin that I added could be there's a conflict with the theme or with other plugins, for example. So I had to turn it off. Now, in order to test that, sometime if you add several plugins and maybe after several months, you notice that the website is acting up. If you have to troubleshoot it, the way to do that, you turn off all the plugins and activate one plugin at a time. So you activate the one plugin, then you go to your second browser and see if everything's okay, and refresh the browser of the website, see everything's okay. Good. Go to the second plugin and activate it. That's how you basically troubleshoot.
Hmm. Now, I know this is probably a more advanced question, but say you work with a developer. What do you ever recommend the developer to go into the back end and modify some code or some language or the CSS, or do you not advise that?
Well, of course, I mean, developers, of course, I mean, they know their stuff. They know
Uh-huh.
the coding. Yeah, of course, I mean, they are expert and they can do that. But remember, your whole child theme has to be, your whole theme has to be a child theme based, right? If everything was fully customized, then yeah, a developer can go there, make the coding changes. But you, as a non-coder, do not touch that area whatsoever, because one minor change, like even removing a dot from the code, can actually break the site. So for you, because you're not an expert as a programmer or as a developer, software, like the web developer, then don't do it. Let the expert take care of that part, because they can, even when they break it, they can fix it.
So, and then is it best habit to, for example, if you're going to be installing multiple plugins or new plugins one at a time, is it good to take backups of your site like before you make any modifications?
I'm glad you asked. Yes, anytime you add a plugin, just do a quick backup. There's a plugin for that called Updraft Plus. Use that plugin to do a quick backup. Take the backup to your Google Drive.
But
Drop.
why do you need that plugin to take the backup when it seems like most of the hosts let you backup, or like when you go to WordPress, you go to export options, export, you can export everything. So why
That's
use
a
Word?
good question. Some hosting company doesn't have the feature or
I
service
see.
for a backup.
I see.
By design, most hosting provider has a nightly backup, but that's for the server. In case,
Hmm.
God forbid, a car comes in and hit the building, and the lamp falls on the server room or whatever, right? Those are for the server backup, not for you, right? But some hosting provider, like SiteGround amazingly has an additional feature that it can do a backup. So I don't even need the plugin. So I can just do a quick click backup, and it will do it by itself automatically. It will create a file for that, and then you can just add the plugin and make the changes.
No, but you're talking okay. So on SiteGround side, I know exactly what you're talking about. They have their regular scheduled backups that they do.
No, no,
But now
that's
once
an additional feature. There's a new service that I can actually click backup for my website to get backed up. Yes,
really,
so some hosting has that, and SiteGround is one of them.
so when you launch WordPress itself, like when you're in the back end of WordPress, not on the hosting side, but on the side where you can modify the website, it's not always on the options, and people don't always have that option to option export.
Yeah, but that export mostly for content.
I see
The
what you're
export
saying.
feature, yeah, is like for moving the pages and the post pages. That's it. It's not the whole site with the design.
Mm,
That's what that option that you saw was for.
mm,
That's why.
feel you. So
Yeah.
essentially, to go back to plugins, now plugins are there to change the functionality of your website and to add functionalities to your website, such as like you mentioned, you could have scheduling, calendar. You could, I mean, obviously, also probably the payment processing is
Yes.
done through a variety of plugins.
Yes. If you use Mailchimp or Aweber for email capture, you can have a plugin for that, so you can connect it with the email marketing system. So one of the plugins that I highly recommend right now for any beginner, that you need to have the following plugin. The first one is Yoast. Okay, we instead of call it like a toast, Yoast plugin or Rank Math. So either or, that's number one. Number two, you need to have a plugin called Monster Insights. So this is for you to help you configure the Google Analytics. Okay, that's number two. Number three, a security plugin. You can try Sakuri or Word Defense, whichever do you like. But make sure you have a security plugin in the background, because you got to practice security.
What
Okay,
about iThemes?
iTheme is another one. So you have Sakuri, WordFence, or iTheme. Pick one of them, not all of it, right? Just one of them. Then again, number four, Updraft Plus, just for a backup plugin. Okay, if you don't have a SiteGround, and if you want to speed up the website, you might want to also look into Cloudflare to speed up the website. Number five, I think Akismet comes automatically by default, and this is for anti-spam comment. And then number five or six, I would say sharing plugin. For when you write the content, you gotta make sure that the content is shareable to the social channel. So there's a plugin called Share This, I think, for sharing what do you call it, content. So these plugins are enough for beginners.
Um, and I know next week we're going to be talking about premium versus free plugins. But in general, just to give us a little teaser, introduce the topic. What is the difference, or what are some of the added functionalities if you go premium routes usually? And you don't have to give the specifics.
With the premium, of course, you have the support, you have the updates, yeah, you have the customer support, and anytime WordPress makes an update, the premium going to be also be updated, on the go. The free version, sometimes developer makes it, and they're busy. There's a chance that it might not get the latest update, and that can cause some future issues.
And then also, what about support in terms of if you go premium version of plugins? What's your experience like in terms of contacting the companies and the organizations and getting support on the plugin?
Very, very good. Mostly use ticketing system, so within 24 hours they'll get back to you, and because you paid for it, they want to make sure that it's working, and they will help you to resolve any issues with the plugin.
What happens now if you have two plugins and there seems to be a conflict? Which company do you contact?
Well, when you troubleshoot by yourself, like first you have to turn off which, and that will tell you what is the problem. So the one that caused the problem, then you can contact that company.
Okay, all right, okay, brother. So I think this is a good conversation so far on plugins, and I know next week we'll go into the meat and potatoes of plugins.
And how to select the premium,
Yeah.
and whatnot. Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit more specifics, and I think what we could do is we can possibly at the end of that session maybe do a demonstration on a real build or just a template website and show people how easy it is to customize the theme, add themes, add a plugin, etc.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to comment on, or otherwise I'll close this out.
Well, I mean, for people out there, make sure you take action. Make sure whatever you learn, put it into action. Don't wait. Don't get overwhelmed. The best thing is for you to start somewhere than not starting at all. Because I had a couple of folks asking me, how should I learn to build a site? What should I do? I want to make some extra cash. I said, okay, let's learn the basic of WordPress. Just to learn the basic. Don't worry about the cosmetic of things. Don't worry about the content right now. Just learn the backend, how every single thing on the backend works, right? Then after that, get into Elementor and start using that to build the website. Maybe build it for your neighbors, for your restaurant that you go to and whatnot, and make some portfolio, like maybe 3 to 2 sample, or maybe maximum 5 website. Just do it as a by yourself at no cost. So when you time to sell the service, you can show other new clients what kind of project you basically built.
Random question. So if people are working on their websites, and we can go into this maybe at the end of next session, and I think we might have discussed it a little bit. Should people work on the actual site? Should they work on a staging copy? Should they download a file and use their own computer as a server? What do you recommend in terms of, as you mentioned, taking action and playing around?
That's a very beautiful question. When it comes to building a WordPress website, there are like 5 ways of installation. Okay, I'm a person. I'm not the lazy way. Well, I think I look for the laziest way. I look for the ways that are simple for anybody to perform and not too complicated, right? So when you buy the domain, when you buy the hosting and you install the WordPress, so by default your website is live because you installed it, right? So what you can do, you can put a coming soon plugin. That way, when somebody finds the website, it says coming soon. But on the back end, you can just keep working on it. So you don't have to do, if you're not a coder, you don't have to go doing the traditional way, downloading it locally and servers. Don't need all this stuff because it's a waste of time. Look for the way how to build it quickly. Time is a matter of essence, right? So my personal recommendation, the way I do it, I install it and I go live and I start working on it. That's how I do it. Okay, because it's already there and you can just keep learning and practicing at the same time. If you want to know the technical thing about all the other 5 ways of doing it, then go to wpbeginner.com and look at some of the 5 ways on how to install WordPress traditionally. But for the most important thing, when you learn something like this, you got to focus on what, not necessarily shortcut, but what are the ways that is
of course
possible to do it this simple way. Then why not do it?
Yeah.
Right. Because for me, to get the domain and get the hosting and install, you can do all that in like 5 minutes.
Yep.
Done. You've seen it, right? It's like, wow, it's crazy. I show students so many times. They're like, they get amazed. Like, wow, I just installed it and now I have a website already. Yeah, they already have.
Sometimes not even 5 minutes. It's more like 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely, 2 minutes. Yeah, or 3 minutes.
Cool, man. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this session. We'll see you next time. We were a little bit late today. Our apologies. Next time, we'll try our level hardest to start at 4 p.m. And most likely next week will be our conclusion for this series, which is WordPress the series, and then we'll pick another topic and cover that. So do tune in next week for the conclusion of this series. Yusuf, my friend, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.